For those of you who don't know, my name is Rebecca Davies and I am a transactional analyst. I have a private psychotherapy and supervision practice in Brighton, and I'm also a tutor at the Counselling and Psychotherapy Training Institute, the Link Centre. So today I thought I would share with you a brief introduction into Polyvagal Theory. It's a really interesting piece of theory as it offers a new explanation for how our autonomic nervous system influences not only our physiological state but also our internal emotional experience and our external behaviour. So I thought I would start by giving you a brief overview of the theory, and then we'll touch a little bit upon how we as therapists can be informed by the theory and why it's important to have some understanding of what might be going on physiologically for our clients. And then I will finish with a brief exercise that's connected to the theory. So, I mean, that exercise you can use not only for yourself, but also you could offer it to clients as well. So, Polyvagal Theory was first presented in the 1990s by Stephen Porges. And the fundamental premise of Polyvagal Theory is the idea that human beings evolved in order to keep ourselves safe, that we are biologically programmed to detect danger, and that this has a huge influence on how we behave. So it's the idea that our autonomic nervous system is constantly checking for cues in the environment to determine whether this is a safe place, this is a dangerous place, this is a safe person, this is a dangerous person. And all of this checking and responding that goes on at our nervous system level is largely out of awareness. We are not consciously thinking about this process as it happens. So we'll start by briefly talking about our old understanding of the autonomic nervous system, and then go on to how Polyvagal Theory has changed that. So a lot of therapists may be aware that the body has a rapid response mechanism, which is dictated to, is that the right word? Which is influenced by our autonomic nervous system to detect danger. And the old way of thinking was that the autonomic nervous system split into two branches. There was the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So the sympathetic nervous system is really our fight and flight response. It's how our nervous system responds when we perceive there to be a threat. We become activated, our blood and therefore oxygen is flooded to our muscles, so that we can fight, so that we can run, so that we can be active to defend ourselves. The next branch of the autonomic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. So you can see the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And the old way of thinking was that the parasympathetic nervous system was the pathway that was activated when we were calm, when we felt safe, when we were relaxed. And what Polyvagal Theory presents is that actually it's not as simple as the parasympathetic nervous system having this one role, but actually there are two roles. And that's where the name polyvagal comes from, because poly means many and vagal refers to the vagus nerve. So the parasympathetic nervous system is made up of the vagus nerve, and there are two branches to the vagus nerve. And each of these branches they originate in different locations in the body, but they also result in vastly different internal experiences, physiological experiences and behaviours. So one of the branches is the vagus branch of the ventral branch, of the vagus nerve. So the ventral branch is what Porges describes as the social engagement branch. We know that it's activated when we feel calm and open and able to play, able to be intimate with another. It's really to do with connection to another person. And in an ideal state, we would we would spend the majority of our time with this particular pathway being activated. It's where health, physiological and psychological well-being is strongly correlated with how much time we spend with this particular pathway activated. The second branch of the parasympathetic nervous system is the dorsal branch of the vagus nerve. Don't worry too much about these names. The dorsal branch we can really think of as the freeze response. So the sympathetic is the fight or flight. The ventral pathway is the social engagement. The dorsal vagus branch, the dorsal branch of the vagus nerve, is the freeze. It's when we become immobilized, it's when we shut down. In acute circumstances where we feel like our life is threatened, we may entirely freeze, we may play dead, we may pass out. Less acute threat may have our bodies just slow down, so our digestion may stop working as well, we may experience depressive feelings, depressive behaviours, and maybe a lack of energy. And this all suggests a dorsal state that our body is in. So the other key part of polyvagal theory that I think for therapists is particularly important to remember is that whenever we or our clients are in the sympathetic state or a dorsal state, we're not able to think clearly. It's only in this social engagement state that we're really able to access our prefrontal cortex, which is where we do our cognitive thinking in the here and now. When we're in the sympathetic state, we're in hyper arousal, and when we're in the dorsal state, we are numb and dissociated. So you can begin to see that if a client is in either one of these hyper or hypo states, that they're not going to be able to think about their problems, think about their experience, think about what's going on for them, or create a narrative, understand the narrative they have in their head about them and their lives. It's only when individuals feel safe enough that actually their nervous system is in this ventral vagus state that therapy can really, that clients can access that thinking part of their brain to be able to process what has happened for them in the past or in the here and now. So Porges coined the term neuroception, and this is the idea that our autonomic nervous system is constantly looking for those cues that I mentioned earlier, the cues to whether an environment is safe or whether they're dangerous, and that our nervous system responds to this before we have any conscious awareness of what's going on. So our nervous system responds to the cues that are being picked up. Now, if you imagine going to a party and you walk into the house, you've never been there before, you don't know that many people, and you see a bunch of strangers standing in the corner with their backs turned to you, all talking and having a great time. At this point, your nervous system may go into a fight or flight place, feel this isn't entirely safe, that they're not sure how they're supposed to interact in this environment. You might decide to leave the party, you might decide to flee, you might use that nervous energy to go to the buffet and fill your plate up. Now imagine how you might feel if one of the people in the crowd turned to you and you realise you know them. They're someone you feel safe with, they're someone you get on with. They smile at you, they have an open, warm expression, and they're walking towards you to say hello, to include you in the party. At this point, your nervous system might guide you back into that ventral state of social engagement where you could actually feel your body relax, to calm down, and to be able to engage and interact. So all of that may be happening in a second by second moment, and although you're not consciously aware of it, it is your autonomic nervous system assessing the environment at all times. So why is this important for therapy? Well, our autonomic nervous system, or the way we understand it now, we can see that it really has huge influence, is hugely significantly important for how we experience the world and our internal state. So we have found that even things such as the way the range of noise, the range of tone we hear when we're in these different states varies. So for example, when we are in the social engagement state, we're very attuned, our bodies, our brains are very attuned to the mid-range of sound, and that's really where human voice happens. That's the range of human voices, is mid-range. And it means that we're open and engaged to hearing what people say. If we are in sympathetic nervous system, it's been demonstrated that we hear much higher and lower range of sound. So we might hear someone screaming, or we might hear a really dangerous growl. So you can see that it has, depending on the state we're in, it really affects our entire experience of the world. The other reason that it's important is that from a polyvagal theory perspective, we can consider the goal of therapy as wanting to aid our clients back from a state of dysregulation, or in other words, hyperarousal or dissociated state, into the social engagement, so that they are able to make sense of their experience, to process, and to create a narrative. A further point is that, some people refer to therapists, or suggest the need for therapists to be autonomic nervous system whisperers. So rather than horse whisperers, we are autonomic nervous system whisperers. Because one of our goals as therapists is to create an environment where our client's nervous system feels safe enough that they are able to get into that social engagement state. And therefore, we need to have an understanding of the theory for ourselves as well, because if we are in a state of hyperarousal or hypoarousal, where we've shut down, there will be micro movements in our face that will show that. Our voice will change, our tone will change, and our client's nervous system will also be highly attuned to that, and therefore will be detecting, right, is this person safe, is this person not safe, dependent on the physiological state that our nervous system is in as well. So you can see there are a number of reasons there why actually having an awareness of this theory is incredibly important for the work that we do. I'm going to finish by sharing with you an exercise that encourages the activation of your ventral pathway. Now, this is something that you can do for yourself, but also that you could share with clients as a way of guiding them back into that more social engagement state for themselves. So you need to be lying on the floor for this. Just sort of imagine that I am, and you lie on your back with no pillows, and you interlace your fingers and you place them behind your head, like so. And lying on the floor, you're then keeping your head straight. I want you to move your eyes to one side, as far as you can comfortably go, just look in one direction. And you need to stay in this for on average 30 to 60 seconds, but it might take longer in some cases. And what you're looking for is a sigh, a yawn, or a swallow. And if you have any of these automatic reactions, it's a sign that you have activated the ventral nerve. Once you've experienced this, you bring your eyes back to the centre and you repeat on the other side. It's a simple technique, and the more you do it, usually the quicker the reaction of that swallowing, yawning occurs. And it's almost as though you strengthen the vagal muscle, you strengthen the tone of the vagal nerve, so that you can access it more easily. So that's probably all I'm going to share with you today. If you have any questions, please let me know. It's a vast topic, and there's an awful lot more that you can discover and learn about polyvagal theory. Hopefully today was useful as an introduction though. Thanks very much. Bye.